Picture a classic decorative tin of Scottish shortbread. You know the kind.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. The ones you always see around the
Uh,
holidays.
and sitting right on the front of that tin is a cheerful, pristine, fluffy white lapdog. I mean, it looks sweet, easygoing, and just completely harmless.
Like a little stuffed animal, really.
Exactly. But I want you to take that image and just erase it from your mind, just completely toss it, replace it with, well, a fearless knee-high predator.
Oh, yeah, a completely different beast.
Right. An animal that does not wait for permission, forcefully squeezes itself into pitch-black gaps in ancient stone walls, and violently hunts down dangerous vermin in the absolute dark. Welcome to the deep dive.
I love this topic so much.
It's wild, right? Today, we are taking a stack of behavioral analyses and historical notes to prove to you that those two wildly different animals are actually the exact same dog.
Yeah, it is honestly one of the most jarring contrasts in the entire canine world. I mean, underneath that bright manicured coat that you see on the whiskey labels is an animal built quite deliberately for courage, persistence,
Mhm.
and intense solitary combat.
And our mission today is to completely shatter that decorative lapdog illusion. If you've ever looked at a West Highland White Terrier, or really like any small terrier, and felt like it was just flat out ignoring you, this is for you.
Oh, they definitely ignore you sometimes, on purpose.
Right. Or if you're just wildly curious about how history shapes modern behavior, this deep dive is going to completely flip how you view concepts like stubbornness and disobedience.
It really reframes everything.
Okay, let's unpack this, because to truly understand why a dog acts a certain way today, we have to look at the blueprint. We have to look at the harsh realities of the job it was originally engineered to do.
Yeah, and the best place to start there is the geography itself. I mean, the Westie was developed in the extremely rugged, windswept landscapes of Scotland.
We're talking, like, some pretty harsh terrain, right?
Very harsh. We are talking about rough grass, thick gorse bushes, and miles of ancient stone walls and cairns. And 19th century farmers and hunters in this region faced a massive problem, which was vermin.
But when we say vermin, I feel like people just picture, a couple of field mice in a barn.
Right, no, we aren't just talking about a few field mice. They were dealing with badgers, foxes, and large rodents that could literally decimate food stores and livestock.
Wait, let me stop you right there. Because when I think of hunting badgers, I think of an animal with massive claws and a notoriously vicious temperament.
Oh, badgers are incredibly dangerous. They fight back hard.
So why on earth would you breed a dog the size of a toaster to fight something that dangerous? I mean, wouldn't you want a massive mastiff or like a big hound?
You might think so, yeah. But a mastiff is completely useless if the badger goes underground.
Oh, right, because they're huge.
Exactly. The quarry these farmers were hunting didn't stand and fight in open fields. They retreated into burrows, deep into the rocky crevices and under those dense rock piles called cairns.
So a large dog just simply couldn't physically reach them.
Right. So the farmers had to breed for a highly specific physical and mental combination. The dog had to be compact enough to squeeze into incredibly tight subterranean spaces, but simultaneously possess the physical density and sheer jaw strength to survive close-quarters combat.
With an animal that was, what, sometimes bigger than the dog itself?
Often larger and heavier than the dog itself, yeah.
That requires a level of boldness that borders on actual insanity. I mean, you are asking a tiny creature to willingly launch itself into a dark hole to fight a badger.
It sounds crazy to us now.
How do you even train a dog to do that?
Well, that's the thing. You actually don't train it to do that. You breed it to intrinsically want to do that.
Wow, it's just hardwired in.
It is. And if we connect this to the bigger picture, the absolute most crucial trait bred into these terriers was independent decision-making.
Because they're doing it all alone in the dark.
Exactly. Think about the physical reality of the work. Once that dog committed to a burrow and squeezed underground, the handler was completely cut off.
Right, there's no space for a person down there.
There's no farmer crouched in the dirt giving verbal commands, offering backup, or directing the hunt. The dog had to navigate the tunnel, locate the threat, and execute the hunt entirely on its own initiative.
So, unlike, say, a retriever, which is bred to look back at the hunter for a command to go fetch a duck, the terrier is bred specifically to stop listening to the human once the hunt begins.
Precisely. Biddability, which is the desire to please the handler, was actually a massive liability underground.
Because if they hesitate, they're in trouble.
Yeah, a dog that pauses to wait for a command in a badger set is a dog that gets killed. They needed an animal that was entirely self-directed.
Okay, it's like hiring a highly specialized independent contractor rather than a micromanager's assistant.
That's a great way to put it.
You don't tell the contractor how to do the plumbing, you just point them to the house and you get out of their way. The modern dog isn't waiting for your permission because its ancestors were literally built not to need it.
Which is exactly why their physical appearance is also deeply rooted in pure function, even the traits that seem purely cosmetic today. Like, take that famous bright white coat.
That's exactly what I want to dive into next. Because from a purely logical standpoint, if you are designing a hunter for the muddy green and brown Scottish Highlands, bright white camouflage makes absolutely zero sense.
Right, they stick out like a sore thumb.
Exactly. You'd want them to blend in, wouldn't you?
You would want them to blend in if they were trying to hide from their prey. But terriers aren't ambush predators. They are pursuit and excavation predators.
So the prey already knows they're coming.
Exactly. The camouflage wasn't the issue. The issue was visibility for the farmer. And our sources note some really charming folklore about this, actually.
Oh, right, the origin story.
Yeah, there's a popular story that an early breeder, Colonel Edward Donald Malcolm of Poltalloch, accidentally mistook his own darker-colored terrier for a fox during a really chaotic hunt and shot it.
Oh, wow, that is so sad.
It is. And according to the legend, he was so devastated that he vowed from that day forward to only breed white dogs.
It's a compelling, tragic origin story. But looking at the historical notes in our stack today, it seems like that's more folklore than documented fact.
Yeah, it is difficult to verify the exact emotional turning point of one specific historical figure. But what we can verify is the practical life or death value of that white coat.
Right, because it functions like a safety vest.
Essentially, yes. In the absolute heat of the moment, during a chaotic fight in thick brush, the farmer needed to instantly distinguish his dog from the badger or the fox.
So you don't accidentally hit your own dog.
Exactly. The bright white coat wasn't about looking pristine for a family portrait. It was literally high visibility safety gear.
Okay, but let's talk about the actual biology of that coat, because people see a relatively short, white-haired dog, and they assume a Westie is basically a wash-and-go pet.
Oh, that is a very common misconception.
Right. You give it a bath, blow dry it, and it looks like the shortbread tin. But the sources detail something called a double coat and a grooming process called hand stripping. What is actually happening biologically with their hair?
So the structure of their coat is honestly a marvel of biological engineering. It's designed purely for survival. It consists of a very harsh, wiry outer layer, and underneath that there's a dense, soft undercoat.
Kind of like thermal underwear under a raincoat?
That's a perfect analogy. That combination trapped body heat and repelled the freezing rain and dampness of the Scottish Highlands. But to maintain that harsh, waterproof outer layer, the dead hair has to be physically removed from the follicle.
Wait, hand stripping means literally pulling the hair out by the roots?
Yes, physically plucking it.
That sounds incredibly painful for the dog. Why on earth would anyone do that instead of just using normal clippers?
I know it sounds really alarming, but you have to understand the canine hair growth cycle. In wiry terrier breeds, the outer hairs don't shed out naturally the way a golden retriever's hair does.
Okay, so it just stays stuck.
Exactly. The hair dies, but the root stays lodged in the follicle. Plucking or stripping that dead hair is actually painless because the hair is already completely dead and ready to release.
Oh, I see. It's just sitting there.
Right. And more importantly, pulling the dead root completely out of the follicle signals the body to grow a brand new, harsh, weather-resistant hair in its place.
So what happens if a modern owner just takes the dog to the groomer and has them shave it down with clippers? Because that's what most people do, right?
Yeah, most people just clip them. But if you use clippers, you aren't removing the dead root. You are just cutting the dead outer hair and the soft undercoat off at the exact same length.
Ah, so the follicle stays clogged.
Clogged and unable to reset. Because the harsh outer hair isn't regenerating properly, the soft undercoat basically takes over. Over time, clipping completely changes the texture and color of the dog.
Wait, it changes the color too?
Yeah, it becomes soft, fluffy, slightly off-white, and it completely loses its ability to repel water or protect the dog's skin from brambles. It ruins the weatherproofing entirely.
That is fascinating. The coat isn't just decorative. It is a functioning biological system that requires very specific mechanical maintenance to keep working.
Yes. And that concept, that an ancient survival system requires a specific outlet, is exactly how we need to look at their behavior in a modern home, too.
Yes. Let's map these ancestral traits directly onto the behaviors that honestly drive modern owners up the wall.
Oh, the complaints are universal.
Let's start with the #1 complaint across the board:
Mm.
the relentless barking. A Westie sees a delivery truck pull up and they just absolutely lose their minds. To the owner, it just feels like random, spiteful noise.
Sure. But to understand the barking, you have to look at the first phase of the hunt. Historically, a dog working deep in the brush or navigating a subterranean tunnel really needed a voice.
Because the farmer couldn't see where they were.
Exactly. The farmer couldn't see the dog, so the dog was specifically bred to forcefully alert the handler the exact moment it located a burrow or detected movement. They were highly valued for their willingness to essentially scream, "The target is right here."
So, the dog sitting in the front window barking at the mail carrier isn't misbehaving.
Not at all.
It's executing the exact biological alert system it was designed for, just redirected at a modern trigger.
Exactly. The dog's brain perceives the delivery driver as a territorial intrusion, or, a potential target. The alert instinct triggers. And once that alert is sounded, the natural progression of the hunt moves to the next phase.
Which explains the second biggest complaint owners have:
Yes, the digging.
the digging. People look at a terrier enthusiastically destroying their prized tulip bed, and they assume the dog is just bored and acting out, trying to ruin their day.
But think about the sequence. First, the dog alerts to the presence of the vermin. Second, because vermin go underground, the dog must excavate to reach them.
Right, they can't just bark at the dirt, they have to get in there.
Exactly. Terriers possess an incredibly acute olfactory system, and hearing that allows them to detect grubs, moles, or even just mice moving beneath the soil.
So they actually hear something we don't.
Oh, yeah. When a Westie hyper-focuses on one specific patch of dirt and starts frantically digging, they aren't trying to ruin your garden. They are pursuing a sensory input that you simply cannot perceive.
It's like living with a furry subterranean radar system. You can't just unplug it and tell it to stop scanning.
That is a brilliant way to phrase it. It is literally a sensory radar system hardwired to a physical excavation response. It's not disobedience. It is a biological imperative demanding an outlet.
So if they are this driven by biological instinct, how intelligent are they really? Because a lot of people conflate stubbornness with a lack of intelligence.
Oh, constantly.
Like if the dog won't sit when I tell it to, it must just be dumb, right?
What's fascinating here is that the exact opposite is true. Their stubbornness is actually a marker of advanced, independent canine cognition. We have to look at how different breeds process risk and reward.
Okay, break that down for me.
Well, a breed like a border collie or a golden retriever gets a massive hit of dopamine simply from complying with human direction. They actively want the handler's approval.
Right, they live to please.
Yes, but a terrier's brain is wired completely differently. They get their dopamine hit from solving the problem and pursuing the prey themselves.
Here's where it gets really interesting. We can kind of compare training a terrier to negotiating a contract with a highly skilled freelancer.
I love that comparison.
Right. The freelancer knows how to do the job perfectly. They might even execute it brilliantly the first time just to prove they can. But when you ask them to do it a second, third, or fourth time just for practice, they look at you and say, "Is the compensation you're offering worth my effort today? What's the payoff for me?"
That captures the neurological reality perfectly. When an owner tries to teach a Westie a trick using repetitive drilling, just doing the same thing over and over, the dog's fast-processing brain quickly calculates that the return on investment just isn't worth the energy expenditure.
So they just check out.
They get intensely bored, and a bored terrier will just shut down and stare at you.
So repetition is the enemy.
Absolute enemy. Training a dog with this kind of independent intelligence requires short, highly varied sessions with high-value, unpredictable rewards. You literally have to convince their brain that cooperating with you is a puzzle worth solving.
Wait, I'm genuinely confused by something then. If they are these calculating, independent, apex predators built to kill badgers in the dark, how is it completely normalized to have them living in a house with a family?
It is a bit of a paradox, isn't it?
Yeah. Shouldn't a dog with that much inherent aggression and lack of biddability be incredibly dangerous to keep around kids in a living room?
This raises an important question, and it's vital to distinguish between prey drive and human sociability. The aggression bred into terriers is directed exclusively at quarry, at small animals.
Ah, okay, not at people.
Right. They were developed by families and worked alongside farmers. A dog that bit the farmer's hand or snapped at his children would have been immediately removed from the gene pool.
They wouldn't have tolerated that for a second.
Exactly. So, historically, they were selected to be deeply affectionate, highly social, and thoroughly bonded to their human families, while simultaneously maintaining lethal intent toward vermin.
That is a wild duality to wrap your head around. But even with that human sociability, there have to be serious lifestyle realities to consider when integrating them into a modern family, especially with children.
Oh, there are major caveats. The biggest danger is that they look like plush toys. Because they are small and visually adorable, children and even adults tend to infantilize them.
Right, they want to pick them up like babies.
Yes. They try to scoop them up carelessly, corner them for hugs, or treat them like stuffed animals. But you have to remember, these are sturdy, incredibly confident dogs with the self-assured personalities of much larger breeds.
They don't think they're small.
Not at all. They have strict physical boundaries, and if they feel threatened or disrespected, they will not hesitate to enforce those boundaries.
And what about that prey drive when it comes to other pets? I mean, can a dog genetically programmed to murder small furry things safely live with a cat?
It is possible, but it requires understanding how their brain categorizes animals. A Westie can often live peacefully with a familiar household cat, provided they are introduced carefully.
So they make an exception for the family cat.
Exactly. The dog essentially categorizes that specific cat as family pack rather than prey. However, the critical mechanism to understand is that the underlying prey drive does not switch off.
Oh, so it's conditional.
Very. If that same dog sees an unfamiliar cat in the yard, a rabbit, or a neighborhood squirrel, the brain instantly flags it as quarry. You can never assume they are cured of their hunting instincts just because they snuggle with your tabby cat indoors.
That makes total sense. They were just compartmentalizing.
Yeah.
Which brings us to the physical demands of owning them. Let me challenge a very common listener assumption here.
Go for it.
I think society has conditioned us to believe that small dog automatically equals low energy lapdog. Like, if you live in an apartment, get a small dog.
Right, people say that all the time.
But based on everything we've discussed about their physical stamina and need to excavate, putting a Westie in a modern apartment without heavy mental stimulation sounds disastrous.
It is a recipe for severe behavioral issues. Sticking a terrier in an apartment and only taking it out for a 5-minute bathroom break is essentially trapping a highly caffeinated detective in a studio apartment with absolutely nothing to investigate.
That sounds like a nightmare for the dog.
It is. Their brains are constantly scanning for a job to do. If you don't provide one, they will invent one. And you usually won't like the job they choose.
Like dismantling the sofa.
Or barking at every single footstep in the hallway.
So to meet their needs, an owner has to actively provide that investigation time.
Exactly. They need real, unstructured outdoor exploration. They need long snifferys, where they are allowed to use their olfactory system to decode the environment. They need food puzzles that simulate the problem-solving of a hunt.
So it's not about square footage at all.
No, size is not the barrier to apartment living. The barrier is whether the owner is committed to draining that immense mental and physical energy every single day.
And that energy brings us to the hidden health realities of the breed. Because to care for a working dog in a modern setting, we have to look at the physical vulnerabilities.
We really do.
Our sources highlight that while they are generally robust, there is a very specific, prevalent issue with their skin.
Skin conditions are an undeniable reality for the breed. Veterinarians constantly see Westies dealing with intense itching, paw licking, chronic redness, and just recurring infections.
And I bet the owners just feel totally helpless.
They do. And the tragedy is that owners immediately jump to the internet, diagnose it as a food allergy, and spend years endlessly rotating kibble brands while the dog suffers.
When in reality, the mechanism behind the itching is far more complex than just chicken versus beef.
Far more. It often comes down to genetic bottlenecking during the breed's early development, which baked in certain immune system quirks. Many of these dogs suffer from atopic dermatitis.
Which means what, exactly?
Essentially, their epidermal barrier is compromised. It allows environmental allergens like pollen, dust mites, or mold to penetrate the skin and trigger an aggressive immune response.
So it's from the outside in, not the inside out.
Often, yes. It can also be caused by yeast infections, parasites, or even using the wrong grooming products on that complex double coat we talked about.
Right, if you mess up the coat, the skin suffers.
Exactly. Guesswork simply prolongs the dog's agony. These breakdowns in the skin barrier require methodical medical dermatology to actually manage.
So what does this all mean? Looking at the big picture, Why do you think we as humans tend to treat small dog health issues, whether it's chronic itching, bad teeth, or carrying a bit of extra weight, as somehow less urgent than we would if we saw the exact same symptoms in a German Shepherd or a Rottweiler?
It honestly comes back to that plush toy illusion. We subconsciously infantilize small animals.
Because they're cute.
Right. If a German Shepherd is limping from carrying 5 pounds of extra weight, we immediately recognize it as a serious structural problem in a working dog. But if a Westie is carrying an extra 5 pounds, people laugh and say it looks chunky and cute.
Oh, yeah. The internet loves a chunky small dog.
But biologically, their joints, their cardiac output, and their dental health matter exactly as much. They are carrying a relentless working dog's engine inside that small frame, and the chassis needs to be kept in prime, lean condition to support that output safely.
It's entirely about respecting the animal they actually are, rather than the decorative accessory we often project onto them.
Well said.
Let's recap the journey we've taken through these sources today. We started with a pristine white dog sitting pretty on a tin of shortbread. By digging into the history and biology, we discovered a fearless, independent Scottish hunter wrapped in a complex, weather-resistant double coat.
Yeah, and we decoded the mechanisms behind the behavior.
Yeah.
We learned that the intense barking is an ancestral alarm system. The relentless digging is the excavation phase of a hunt. And their famous stubbornness is actually just the neurological hallmark of a fast-processing, independent intelligence weighing its options.
And the most important takeaway for you as a listener is that when you see a tumbling, adorable terrier puppy in a modern living room, you are looking at an animal carrying the exact same unedited genetic blueprint as the terrier working the Scottish hillsides 200 years ago.
The hardware hasn't changed at all. It just requires an owner willing to understand and channel that ancient programming responsibly.
Right. If we can respect the history and the biology, we stop fighting the dog's nature and start working with it.
Exactly.
Which leaves me with a final thought that I just haven't been able to shake since we first started analyzing these sources. We spent this entire deep dive marveling at how a Westie's behavior today, the scanning for threats, the digging, the constant risk assessment, is still entirely dictated by the harsh survival job it was engineered for centuries ago.
Oh, absolutely.
And that is despite the fact that today, it sleeps on a memory foam orthopedic bed and eats organic meals out of an artisanal ceramic bowl. The environment completely changed, but the ancient hardwiring remained entirely intact.
It's pretty wild to think about.
It makes you wonder, if a dog is still blindly executing its ancestral survival programming in a modern living room, how much of our own modern human behavior, our irrational anxieties, our social habits, and our stress responses are just our ancient hunter-gatherer survival programming playing out under fluorescent office lights?
That is a very deep question.
Think about that the next time your dog loses its mind at the mail carrier. Maybe they aren't the only ones reacting to ghosts on a Scottish hillside. Thanks for diving deep with us.